Hey.
Morning.
Morning, Pete.
How are you guys?
Good. All right.
I'm Chief Rudy.
Dan?
Earl.
Hey. Bill.
Hey, we can go right around the corner here.
All right.
First off, I just want to apologize for Officer Sharbar's contact with you guys on Sunday. I did have a discussion with her after that incident. She told me the only reason that she made contact with you was based on the complaints that they were getting. But I explained to her that even though you guys were doing nothing wrong, there was no reason that she needed to make contact with you or even tell you guys to make a
Yeah. From our standpoint, we don't mind if officers make contact. Simply talking is one thing, but when when she came to the you got your IDs, I'm sorry, that's, you know, we'll talk about why we're doing it, this, that, and the other thing, but you know, the go at from the Terry stop aspect of it doesn't.
And I talked to her about that, and I told her that probably her tone with you was very inappropriate. So I addressed that with her as well.
You know, we would have. I was on my way back from my cousin's graduation party. I stopped at the Quick Trip in Big Bend, which is Waukesha County. I'm walking in, have my gun on me, and Waukesha County deputy backs out, and all of a sudden, "What are you carrying?" You know, I had no problem talking with him. He didn't sit there and, "Well, who are you? Why are you carrying?" or anything like that. You know, it was a cordial, consensual conversation. But once she got to the point of, "Where's your ID?" and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that's not needed."
Yeah, and I agreed. Like I said, I addressed that with her.
Unfortunately, the confrontational start is going to be met with resistance.
Fully understandable.
Yeah, I mean, we've had officers come up to us like, "Hey, how's it going?" and, you know, shake our hand and talk, things like that. No problems with that, but to be met with in that fashion. I wasn't there. I was supposed to be there, but after seeing the videos and watching them, it just seemed like it kind of started off in a confrontational way.
And I would agree with
because
that.
because I wasn't there. I'm trying to kind of remain a somewhat neutral, seeing it, and I probably would have reacted the same way. I just got the feeling it's like, you know, she was talking to a child in some points. Not to be disrespectful to her or any of the police force, but there were some aspects of it that made it feel like, or sound like, she was dealing with a child. You know, "Come back here, I'm talking to you." That kind of thing. It's like, you know, he just said that we're not being detained, and at that point, walking away is the appropriate thing to do. And unfortunately, just kind of spiraled downhill from there. You know, we would much rather deal with things in a less visible manner.
Well, you know, on side road, visible doesn't matter to me. I mean,
yeah,
the cop, the general public drives by, they see that contact's been made, and they see us walking away afterwards, and they realize, well, I guess they weren't doing anything wrong, which is a good thing for them to understand and see that. I also want to point out that I don't recall her ever saying I'm officer whatever with the Holstein Police Department, and to me that's something that should have happened when I got stopped in Calumet County. I don't know if you saw that one or not, the Calumet County Park. Neither officer identified themselves. Yeah, they got vests on or badge and stuff, but so did all security guards and strippers, and I'm like, I'm sorry, when you make contact like that, I'm deputy, I'm an officer, so and so. You know, it's.
What'd you say her name was? Her name was?
Officer Sharbar.
Okay, because I thought that was Aaron Lee. Aaron, how do you say it? Part-time.
Her first name is Aaron.
Okay, so how long has she actually been on
2 years.
Okay. Because it just seemed like I don't know if she didn't have enough training or if she wasn't, she didn't know how to handle it, to me.
I was impressed with the fact that she didn't sit there hand on the gun the entire time like a lot of officers do, and that was a good thing.
She did when you walked away. She went, and then right away she stopped and put her hand down. I noticed that.
I didn't see that on the video, so I can't.
Well, that's because I turned it back.
Yeah, I can't comment on that because I didn't see it.
The other thing is with, I don't know if you saw both of our videos or not, but after we had walked away and then stopped, just from my aspect or my point of view of it, she didn't have line of sight on me because the situation was getting excitable. But if I were really up to no good and she didn't have proper line of sight on me, I would have been easily able to access and
I did talk to her about that as well.
Okay. I don't want anyone to get shot, and it could end up with confronting 2 people that are up to no good, or 3 people, but to make sure you keep everyone in view.
We want to make sure that you're safe as well. We're not the enemy, but there are, and I'm not pointing fingers at your force or anything or anybody in particular, but there are officers who exceed the law and abuse it, and that's the kind of thing that puts yourself in danger, because it makes things confrontational almost immediately, and it shouldn't be that way. There should be a little more friendly interaction. Like I said, if she had come up and said, "Hey, I'm Officer so-and-so, could I have a word with you?" And then say, "Yeah, we've had a couple of calls in, people concerned about you, and I'm just checking up." It would have been a minute or 2 of talking back and forth. No, we're just walking, and then everybody was on their way. It wouldn't have escalated to the point that it did. When I was seriously considering state patrol, and I did all my training and stuff like that, I was trained never taking it first time. I know that's a very difficult thing to do, and we're all human, but to detach yourself from that should at least be, it almost seemed like, I'm intimidated by Bill. He's a big guy. And I would imagine that she was as well, and it kind of put a stress level on her, because she doesn't know him. I know him. He'd still intimidate me. But I lost my train of thought.
we did hear another call come across the scanner. I believe it was about us. I'm not 100%, but it sounded like Aaron replied that I'm clearing the call. There's no contact needed. I'm glad she didn't try and use that as a reason to make the second stop like she initially said she would do. So that that was good that she either, I don't know if she got in contact with someone after she stopped us, and I don't know what, but the scanner, you can hear it on one of the we didn't put it up on YouTube, but came back and said, "I'm clearing the call, there's no contact needed." So
I got a question on who does dispatch. So Calumet County Sheriff does dispatch for this area, or do you guys do? Okay.
Well, Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. we have our own dispatch.
Okay.
911 or just direct dial?
Non-emergency.
Okay.
911
goes through County.
After 4:30 p.m. then it goes through County.
Okay. Now, like I talked with the Winnebago and Allegheny counties before, and do you give them feedback at all for I mean, do you talk to the sheriff about how things are handled at all for dispatch? Because I have some of the recordings from Fond du Lac, from Oshkosh and Appleton, and they handle things differently after they got some feedback, because they weren't telling anybody it was legal or anything. There, some of the dispatchers even kind of escalated things with saying, "Well, I'd be scared too," and stuff like that. I didn't get the recordings yet. I plan on doing it, Do you know anything about how they handled it, or?
I'm thinking the first contact was, Aaron said that someone stopped her.
No,
So I'm thinking it was a citizen.
And Erin did tell me, I mean, she did tell me that when I talked to her, that she was approached by a citizen.
I bet she was the
If
woman
that
in
was
the minivan.
before or
No,
after,
okay.
after the dispatch.
A lot of this can be diffused right from the phone call. Somebody calls up frantically saying, there's two guys walking down the street with guns. You know.
What are they doing?
Yeah, what are they doing? Are they pointing the
Right,
guns?
right.
Well, no, they're walking, they're strapped to their back. Well, that's not illegal,
Right.
you know.
But we'll go
And
check that.
we'll do a drive-by or whatnot. And then you simply drive by, assess the situation, maybe even just make a personal contact, you know, lean out the window, go, hey, how you guys doing? And then on you go. But to show up like what happened in Appleton there with the guns
Farmers market.
drawn,
Yeah.
pointing them at your head, and
I always say it's unfortunate, but there's enough, enough of these situations that we've seen the whole range of how anything could be handled at this point, and
a simple drive-by to get on the ground.
yeah,
And, you know, I'll shoot you in the head.
yeah, that was the worst. But
Nina.
no,
Yeah, Fond du Lac, they get calls, they have an officer drive by, and that's it.
yeah,
Yeah, people are walking, they're carrying firearms, and they're not threatening anyone, they're not, yelling
So
at
when you-
anyone.
Not to interrupt you, but
No
when
problem, go
when
ahead.
you guys were carrying, was the muzzle pointed upward, downward?
His was
I
up,
don't
mine
remember
was
seeing
dangling
that
at my
before.
side.
all depends actually how what sling or that, because 2-point best ways up, so it ain't hanging out, and single point goes straight down no matter how you hold it. So I mean,
Well, you can put it onto the wrong end.
Yeah.
Point right at your head, dragging it along the wrong
I
I did have my sidearm in a plate carrier pointing straight across, but it's in a holster. When it's in a holster, I don't consider it. I mean, if I have my gun in here, it's pointing that way, but I'm not really pointing it. It's just how it's being retention. So.
There's a big difference between having it slung to your back and carrying it around.
Right.
even
this.
even slung in the front,
Yeah.
as long as it's pointed down.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Most people rest their arm on it or something.
Yeah.
But
Because I can tell you that it was really a shock for residents in the town to see you guys walking through. It's not something that they see every day.
it sparks conversation. It will
Yes,
for a
it
while.
does. It does.
We do get a lot of positive feedback from it as well. I mean, I've had a 90-year-old lady come up to me and talk to me and telling me that she had just bought her first gun and wanted some advice. And she's 90 years old. She just bought her first gun. I said, well, make sure you train. Make sure you get some shooting in. I've never had anybody run away from me screaming.
Occasional bad bad comment.
I haven't even had a bad comment. I had just one guy say, what, do you walk around with a Glock? No, actually, it's a Taurus. But it's not like we're trying to do this. I know it's on YouTube, but that's not the point. That is, sometimes public exposure is the only way to get to this point where we're talking in a respectful manner. Such as Winnebago County completely blew us off. Didn't even want to talk to us. And then that's when Bill went in and said, all right, now I guess we're going to have to...
That was County Red.
Huh?
That was County Red.
That was Calumet? Okay.
Yeah,
But,
that was just
the
county.
part thing. Okay,
Marcotte.
my mistake. Sometimes that's needed to get to this point. I know some PDs, they just, we got nothing to say to you. It's like, well, we're here to help you as well. Point out some errors that we saw that might help you. How you proceed with what we tell you is entirely up to you. We're not going to have to do it. But she had also made mention of the local ordinance banning long guns.
Pretty much carry of anything.
Carry of anything. That ordinance has to be taken off,
No.
not enforced because it's in violation of state law. No local.
They don't have to remove it. but they can't enforce it.
You can't enforce it. You can't even, not even on threat of enforcing it. Because state law says no local law can be more restrictive
Yeah,
as far as carrying a firearm.
For the
goes.
Calumet County thing, we had to get a few representatives and JV Van Allen involved before they would actually stop enforcing theirs for the park. But yeah, no local ordinance or county or anything can go stronger than state law when it comes to firearms. It can be equal to, but
Just want to make sure that's something too, because we're doing this for the next person that comes along and doesn't know that. And all of a sudden, somebody comes into town, they're visiting, and they get a ticket for openly carrying a firearm, and then, well, they pay it because they don't know. And they're unknowingly having their rights violated.
Do you have that in writing somewhere?
it's on the preemption clause of Act
The-
35 or
The part that, the stricter part or
Yeah.
the disorderly conduct part?
District.
I don't remember which one that was right
I think you mentioned it, well, you mentioned the disorderly conduct.
Well,
first.
yeah, the disorderly conduct one is 66.0409, paragraph 6. That one I know because it says,
I think I got it on
disorderly
my
conduct and
my drive. I can find it.
I wish I knew what the preemption one was right offhand.
But my reason that I was here Friday was, you know, what we talked about, and I felt that I was blown off with that because it's an ongoing thing. And then once I walked Friday, more negative stuff and threats were said by several different officers. Is my thing.
I
And
don't know who the officers were.
one was the captain that lives right down the road.
And are you willing to put that in writing?
I'm not willing to say how I know that, but
But how can I address that issue if I don't have it in writing?
all you got to do is, you know, say, hey, you guys are representing us if you're in work or out of work. So you know, don't be a bonehead and watch what you say. That's all I expect.
But how do I know that
You're not moving
who
to
you
the
heard this from?
Yeah,
This is a kind of a sticky situation.
yeah. I'm not willing to say who.
I think that's how this phone conversation started on Wednesday. And I have a pretty good clue who this person is that you're referring to.
And that's also what I have a problem with, because I've heard from more than one person, but then to have officers go around and harassing people afterwards, I think that's wrong. But
But who are the officers?
the one was it Schrader or Schneider that works third shift, and then
What did he say?
he was the original one that said that he was going to cite whoever is open carrying on gun for disorderly conduct.
Well, what was the basis behind this conversation? That's what I'm trying to get from Wednesday when we talked.
It sounded like outside of work that it just got brought up and they were talking about it, and then
So he wasn't on duty?
no,
When he made that
no,
comment?
all these comments were made off.
Do you know where they were made?
No,
You don't know or you don't want to say?
a little of both, because
But how can I address the issue if you're not giving me factual information and you're willing to put something behind it?
What he's trying to say is third-hand information isn't gonna
I know.
be good, and I know why
Yep.
you're being hesitant.
Yeah,
And I would as well.
Yeah.
Don't want to
It's not about getting someone in trouble when it comes to that. I mean, I think it needs to stop. You know, a comment, you know, could be made of people just watch what you do outside of work, and you know, you still represent.
I know that you actually say that because you come around and say that I never said it.
A memos are public record if you send out an email.
What?
If you send a memo out to the officers or something, if it's an email, it's public record at that
Well,
point.
I'm not going to send out an email
On hearsay.
on hearsay.
Yeah.
I gotta agree with him on that one.
I
I'm gonna
agree with-
him. He can't go up to the other officer and say, start questioning him on third-hand information. I agree with him, and I fully understand
Yeah.
why your position as well, and I would probably have the same
Well, and the way you can handle it too is, you know,
general statement.
yeah, you know,
Instead of pointing finger at
Yeah.
somebody, say, hey, this is, you know, we gotta watch what we say, we can't, you know.
and that's,
Say
you know,
this or that.
that's how it could be handled. It's
Yeah.
just when, the hard thing is when the,
The 947 one is the state one saying it's not disorderly, and the 660409 is the one that says that this level can't apply municipal ordinance against someone simply carrying. Now, you know, if someone's walking down the street yelling at people, making threats and stuff, you know, that's a completely different story.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know, I had a guy from inside Twisted Tap come out and start yelling at me, and I'm like, I didn't reply. I stood there, and you know, he can say his piece. And
Yeah, that was pretty clear on the video.
he was.
He did the right thing. I personally, I would have probably stepped away almost immediately to remove myself from the situation and diffuse it. But you did have the problem where other people were talking to you in a friendly manner.
Yeah.
You know, at what point do you just say, and eventually you did. You walked across the street. I think he handled it well. You were on the other side of the street right away. You know, removing yourself from the situation is the best way to diffuse it. Let him go back inside and stew about what he was talking about. He has every right to voice his opinion.
Loud.
And at no point did, you know, was he told to, you know, shut up, you're a big stupid dummy, and you know.
Well, he was told by his friends to shut up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, not by any of us. You know, rights are rights. Like them or hate them, good or bad, rights are rights. You don't have to agree with it, but you should at least respect the ability to make a choice. And that's one thing that we're pretty big on. You know, people always say that, you know, we're fighting for Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment doesn't grant us any rights. It prevents other people from infringing upon a
Prevents the
right that
government
we
from.
already have. If anything, we're probably more First Amendment, freedom of expression, freedom of demonstration, things like that. We're just using a firearm as a tool for it, so we're using both of them. So just, you know, these are not rights that are granted by any man or law or government. These are natural born rights, and if we're not willing to fight for them, who is? And we're very passionate about this. We've been doing this for quite a while, and this is the way we prefer to do it: is have a communication, no yelling, mutual respect between all of us, and hopefully that there's a positive outcome from it.
So getting back to Officer Schrader's comments about arresting somebody for carrying a firearm, do you know when it was said?
I really can't say any of that. And so, like you said, what you do with it, you know, at this point, you know, if you do a general statement or whatever. But well, another instance.
Unless you actually talk to the person you got it from, and you have that person talk to the chief.
And that's not going to happen.
You're not going to be able to do anything with it because it's your safety.
I understand it. I understand that. I know there's also another instance where the owner of I don't know how much you know about it, but the owner of the laundromat down the road there, where he was doing something there later at night, and I don't know if an officer drove by or if he had an alarm or what the deal was, but he was checking on the laundromat at night, and he got hassled for open carrying.
The laundromat owner?
It sounds like it was some time ago.
Do you know who the laundromat owner is?
I talked to him, but I didn't know. I don't
Describe to me what he looks like, because I don't know who he is.
Okay, no. This was some time ago. Like I said, I don't know if it's changed since then or what happened, but okay. Okay. But it sounded like they stopped in, they talked to him, and he kind of, and it was done.
I have no first-hand knowledge of those conversations. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
stick to what the ordinances are and.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, you know, we're dealing with people who can be afraid to come forward. They're worried about repercussions of it, and I can understand that. You know, if this is their community and they badmouth the police department, there's going to be personal feelings involved, and I can fully understand why they would feel that way, and that's why, kind of like why we're from out of the area. At least, you know, we can mediate a little bit. But I wouldn't feel comfortable putting anybody's name out unless that person explicitly said, yes, you can use my name.
Exactly.
But why aren't they coming in to talk to me then? Why aren't you bringing
either
Personal fear.
and their job and
Fear of
other
Because the
things.
police department does not take third-party complaints.
I know.
Well, we're not filing a complaint. We're bringing it.
Yeah, but if you're asking for me to correct action, how can I correct action based on hearsay?
Okay, I understand
I
that.
guess you're gonna have to tell these people, and if this isn't the same people that you're referring to, that they're gonna have to come in, because I just don't, because these officers could file grievances, say if they get disciplined down the road.
I'm getting harassed, and
Yeah.
they're just making stuff up.
Right,
You
you know,
that's why
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, as far as whoever heard.
Yeah, and that's
I
why
wasn't
we're
party
here
to those
talking.
conversations.
But I guess if these people are afraid of retaliation or whatever, I mean, I have a zero tolerance on that.
Okay.
You know, so maybe that's something that you'll have to explain to whoever these people are.
We can talk to them,
Yeah.
even if
Part of-
we came in with them, if that made them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I can let them know.
Part of the Germantown incident, I don't know if you knew about that one or not. That one made the news. I walked, and they got like 4 calls in an hour time. But police chief posts on their Facebook page, and the news got a hold of it. A lot of that blew up. And I went down there because someone from the city said, I wonder what would happen if I'd open carry here. And he said, well, legally they can't do anything about me open carrying, but next thing you know, they drive past my lawn, and I didn't pick up dog poop, so I get cited for that, or my grass is too long, so I get cited for that. And
We've seen it
just
happen
be,
before.
Yes.
well, you did it, we can't get you for that, but we'll look for whatever we can when we, that's
Every-
why.
every nitpicky offense.
That's why I'm like, you know what, I have no problem going wherever. I'm not worried about my town, because I've been in Sheboygan Falls and Polar and Plymouth and Sheboygan.
And you can
I
have
don't
zero
get stopped.
tolerance on it, and that's great, I commend you for that. But it's not gonna stop an officer who maybe had a complaint against him from ticketing him for grass being
Oh, well, the ordinance says, so we can give them a
Yeah.
ticket for it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you
We've
this.
never written an ordinance.
I'm
Why,
just
I
picking
used
that
that as an
yeah.
example.
And that is an actual thing that happened to somebody that we know. Their grass was 4 inches long. They set their mower deck at 3.5, and they got a warning. You have a week to cut your lawn, or you're getting a $40 ticket
Mhm.
because they pushed the issue for carrying in a school zone where they live, kind of thing.
And that's the stuff that we deal with. And like I was trying to say, you have a zero tolerance, and that is great. I really appreciate it. To give somebody a ticket, even a piddly one for dog poop or
Yeah.
whatever you want, they have a choice of paying that and taking a financial hit or fighting it. which means
taking a
that-
financial
Or taking a
hit.
financial hit. For that person, it's a lose-lose
Well, unless they represent
situation.
themselves, but
Yeah,
Miss
but
Word-
still, you're giving up work, you're giving up time, it's a lose-lose situation. And it's something that I don't feel comfortable with, how the police are being perceived. When I was younger, I wasn't afraid of police officers. They were great. I got bubblegum cards and baseball cards and, and things like that. But now kids are terrified, that they're gonna come and take me away or whatnot. I'm like,
Don't you think that's coming from the parents and their upbringing, though?
my kids are afraid. Every time I go out for something, they're like, don't get arrested. I said, I'm not doing anything illegal. Not that it matters in all cases, but this is the perception that's going on out there, and that's a serious issue for the police department. That's a serious concern for us, because we're not your enemy. We're not here to jump down your throats or fight you left and right. But when we see things that they concern us, I'm not going to get into any specific cases or officer names, but when an officer grabs somebody that wasn't doing anything, throws them on the ground, and starts beating them, and then they're let off, that was perfectly fine. It's concerning to us, because how many people have died. I understand the whole resisting, don't resist, but I've seen far too many times where somebody is injured or financially ruined because of legal action. Yeah, the legal system is nice, except that it just financially bleeds you to death.
Us lawyers.
And are you referring to videos that you're seeing on the media, or? I mean,
Some personal experience between us. You probably know which
Yeah.
one I'm referring to.
Wickland?
The main one. Which one?
Wickland, up in Green
Yeah,
Bay.
I wasn't gonna say the names, but
Yeah,
yes.
there's other ones.
Yeah,
too, but-
there's other ones, but
Well, social media's made it a lot easier for people to show what's going on, and you don't get the whole picture a lot of the time. But on the other aspect of it, a lot of times there is clear inappropriate conduct and no actions taken.
Yep.
And I'm not pushing for your officer to get disciplined or suspended or anything like that.
No, that's
there was
not
there was
the-
nothing that happened here that was blown way out of proportion. It was.
Another example is what happened to him in Appleton. They put him in the back of the car for 45 minutes, and then started looking for something to charge him with. Well, let's run his CCW again. You already ran it. Why are you running it
Well,
again? What can we get him for?
For issues like that, it's the whole making up charges
Yes,
and all that,
and
and then
that-
their conduct was found 100% okay.
Yeah,
But-
and that's damaging to how people view police
Well,
departments,
and-
and we don't want that.
One of the comments that was made by one of the bar patrons that day, that was recently made by them, is we're out looking for a lawsuit. I had my chance to file one for Appleton, and I didn't. That change happened. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Same thing with Calumet County pointing a rifle at me.
Now, if I take a bullet, that's something different.
Yeah.
Then there'd be a
Yeah,
lawsuit.
bullet or a
But
beating, but-
hurt feelings, whatever. It's
This isn't
Yeah,
about,
no.
this isn't about money. We've had our chances at that, and we've
passed.
passed on every one of them.
So a citizen just made that comment
Yeah.
in the whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I saw the post.
Yeah.
It's a post. We're not in it for money. We're in it for change, for your
And-
protection and our protection.
The more people that openly carry, the more normalized it becomes. Like I said, I carry in Sheboygan now. I have no problems at all. I haven't been stopped by them in probably 8 months, something like that. And, I know they got called when Scott Walker's wife came to town. They talked to the people who called and didn't bother talking to me because, well, no.
Even the few that get their feathers, ruffled about it, even they take something away from it,
So just getting back to the comments that were made in the backyard, you relay
You can't
a little bit more than what was said back
do anything
there.
except.
You never said it was
The only thing you can do
backyard.
is said that in the when you were talking to Officer Aaron, you said that.
Yeah.
You said it was the chief.
Yeah, no. It's what's said in private, I was always told don't ever say anything that you wouldn't say to everybody else. If you're saying something that shouldn't be said at that point, but I don't know, at this point, like you said, if that person, or people ain't willing to step forward and say something, there's nothing you can do other than if you wanted to give out a broad statement of, if you want, you're representing us, if you're at work or at home, that's fully up to you.
Making statements such as "I'm going to ticket anybody that's openly carrying a firearm" is intimidation.
But I never said that.
No.
Not saying you did. I'm using as a general statement. If you say, if I see anybody carrying a firearm, I'm going to give them a ticket. I don't care if it's illegal or not. 99% of the people out there aren't going to take the time to look it up and say, hey, this is perfectly legal, so they're not going to do it.
No.
You haven't changed the law. You haven't had to issue any tickets. You use, lack of a better word, a threat. You have to excuse me, I'm having difficulty coming up with reasonable words to describe it. Intimidation.
So were you the one that posted that information on Facebook then?
What information? I posted on
Comments made in the backyard?
Yeah.
And are you going to apologize on my behalf? Because that's not my backyard? As you posted in your comment that it was my backyard?
Yeah, I can put a thing on there. I don't have a problem with that.
You're the chief?
I am the chief.
Okay.
Yeah, I can put a thing in there, I don't have an issue with that.
I'm going to apologize right now.
Yeah,
Because
I
it
misspoke.
was told to me that it was the chief, and then also I saw there's a captain, and then I was confused.
yeah, I
And I
misspoke.
then I just posted and I go, okay, we have a meeting with the chief now. And, you know, I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to remain as neutral as possible and as friendly as possible. And this is what we wanted, was to be able to talk.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, I misspoke for that, but,
With hearing the,
You can easily
Yeah.
put a post up about
who
that.
supposedly said whatever, it gives you a general idea of where the information came from, obviously, because if it's their backyard and your officer's backyard, well, obviously, you've had a pretty good idea where it came from.
It's not hard to figure it
I,
out. Right.
I wasn't there, I didn't talk to whoever heard it, so I have no idea, but if I find out where your captain lives, I can figure out which houses are right around there, but I had no part of the conversation hearing about captain said this or officers, whatever said that. All I know is that what happened when I was here, not any other conversations.
Anything else you guys want to discuss about?
I can't think of anything
No, not really.
right now.
It's
I mean,
completely-
Talked to Officer Aaron about the way she should have approached it.
Right.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that you addressed that.
If anything, if it comes out with a slightly better training method, that, you know, how it's handled, you know, serious, and then her being alone.
Exactly.
It could have gotten
I was
serious.
actually kind of surprised she, didn't wait for one of the county deputies to show up to get her back up, but, that was, in my opinion, that's a good start to, making it less hostile.
Yeah, but we're not saying she's a bad officer. I would like to see her,
You're married.
I'm married, better, I would like to see her to be able to handle things in a better fashion.
More calm.
Less confrontational, how's that?
I did address that one.
Yes, and we appreciate that. Well, I should say I appreciate it, I can't speak for them.
Thanks for taking the time to see us.
Yes,
No problem.
thank you, appreciate it.
Would have done it yesterday, but it's a little hectic.
yeah, so.
Yesterday was good.
I was
Yeah,
busy.
you were busy, I was busy.
Yeah.
We didn't get a hold of Bill until late last night.
I work second shift, so I'm back to
All right.
All right.
Hopefully something good comes out of all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thanks for your time.
Good. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks for your time. You're welcome.